Hello and welcome. I hope you're safe and well. In today's exciting episode, I finished the daisy jacket. Well, actually, when I'm recording this first half, I haven't actually finished all the hand sewing, but I have finished the beading. Yay! It's perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Perfect jacket. As I said, I haven't sewn up the sides of the jacket yet. This is what it looks like at the moment. Still have to check all the beading because it's finished, but I have to check it first. Then I can do the hand sewing to finish it off. So to recap, I cut out the jacket pieces. There's only 3 pieces, left, front, and back. So I cut them all out in the daisy fabric, the structural layer, which is that neon one, and then the slightly darker blue one is the lining. Then I pinned together the daisy fabric or the outer fabric and the structural layer. Then I pinned together the two fronts onto the back. And then these are the sleeves here. So first you have to sew them together at the shoulders, the front and back. Once you've done that, then you can pin the sleeves on because you need that center shoulder seam to line up the sleeves. When you sew the sleeves on, then you can do the same for the lining. Then you sew the lining and the outer jacket together around the front center seam, the neckline, then down again the front. And then you have to pin all your seams and hand stitch them into place. And I'm not going to stitch the side seams and the underarm seam. If you're not going to bead it, you can also machine sew those. But because I want to bead mine, I had to tuck those seams back, stitch them into place. And once I'd sewn all these seams, then it was time to bead. So I got out loads of beads, but I ended up only using 4 sorts of beads. So sequins are technically a type of bead. So these sequin are aqua, they're metallic, and they've got a tiny hole at the top. So they're a French sequin. This one is a flower-shaped sequins, 3-dimensional, and it's got a hole in the center. And it's a mauvey white color, but it kind of looks white to most people. And then we have 2 types of seed beads, the clear ones with an AB finish or a bridal finish. And then we have, those ones are going to add height, but I didn't want any color in them because I don't want it to distort. And then these sort of murky, dirty gold transparent beads with an oil slick finish on them. I forget the technical name, but if you ask for an oil slick finish, they'll know what you mean. And it's not an iris finish, but it's an oil slick one. So it's a slightly lighter version of the iris one. Anyway, so I've got 2 types of beading on here. The first one I did was the one with the coin. So it goes coin, clear seed bead, 2 daisy flower sequins, and then a golden one on top. So I've put them on a pin so you can see the order. So you do the coin first, then the clear seed bead, then the 2 daisy ones. It's important to do one face down, the bottom one goes face down and the top one goes face up, and then you put the golden bead on top. Because it's going to be backed by white, it just looks better. So when you're in the store, this mustard one will look like it's going to work, but it's actually too light. So just think about what its one individual tiny bead is going to look like compared to like 100 beads always looks darker or lighter than the actual single bead. So, yep. And then the other type of beading I did was just the daisies. So I did 2 seed beads, which gives it more height, and then 2 daisy-shaped sequin. Again, you have to do one face down, one face up to give it dimension. Otherwise it looks like you're only using one sequin, and obviously it does cost twice as much to use 2 times as many sequins. but it just makes it look like a real flower, because real daisies, their petals are skewed in all different directions, because as it opens, some spring open and some sort of just struggle to open. So it just makes your eye might not register, like you might not register it, but subconsciously it makes the design seem more authentic and real. So with this one, obviously it doesn't matter if it looks like a cartoon flower. I've used fluoro red thread and a clear bead in the center, so I wasn't totally concerned with it looking real, but it still has elements of a real flower. Same with this one. If you watch this video, I went to, during the design process for what I would use for the beading, this was the most realistic looking. I know it looks like a cartoon flower, but of all the versions that I came up with, that was the most lifelike, cartoonish one, if that makes sense. And then I just got distracted. I kind of think I might pull that autumn floral jacket apart and do it again. But anyway, back to the daisies. So that is how I came up with these particular types of beading, and I just love these daisies. So then in the last video, the last thing that I showed you was me beading half of it. Then I pinned it together so that I could put it on the mannequin. And then I put it on the mannequin to show you. So I'll give you a quick 360 to show you what it looked like when it was half done, because there is such a massive difference between the plain cotton and the finished object, because this beading is just, I think this is one of my absolute most favorite beadings ever that I've done. The daisies are just delightful. Like, they're just, like, the actual fabric is really, really cute. But yeah, I never would have come up with this design if I hadn't been using this fabric, because why on earth would you mix an aqua coin with daisies? And because I sort of use technical colors rather than what a average person would see them as, I consider this daisy flower to be mauve, pale mauve, not white. But yeah, because it's daisy fabric, I was like, actually, it could probably pass as white. So I ended up using it on this, whereas I probably would have used it on, I've got this tweed that is like 3 different mauves as well as metallic and white. So it's, yeah, I probably would have used them on that. But oh my gosh, this is just amazing. Anyway, so after the end of that video, then I left it on the mannequin for a bit, because this beading is really difficult to do. Anyway, so then I took all the pins out carefully, made it flat again, and I finally finished the second half of the beading. I mean, it's easier than the pink and white tweed jacket that I did, had 4 different types of beading on it, whereas this has 2 variations of the same, essentially the same type of beading. So in that respect, it was easier, but it's always really, really difficult to work with sequins rather than beads that have a beading weight. Because, yeah, everything is so light. It's like working with feathers. Like, if you just use the slightest wrong tension, you sort of yank too hard, everything just flies off into your face or onto the ground behind you. It's ridiculous. Anyway, so here it is. And as you can see, I finished at night and I couldn't be bothered turning all the lights on and making it pretty. And I was just so tired after doing it, because you sort of have to hold your arms in a really specific way. So my shoulders and my neck were just ridiculously, I was just like, oh, I need to relax. So this is the next day. And yeah, I have to take it down and do check all the beading now, which basically means you go around and pull random daisies to see if they come out. Because as you're doing the beading, sometimes, like, you can usually, you sort of have one hand on the back of the fabric and one hand on the front, so you can feel if the whole thread has come through. But sometimes you miss a knot that like your thread knots and you don't catch it. So then you have to go round the whole thing. You go around the front first to catch anything obvious, and then you carefully turn it inside out and you go around the whole of the back and just check that there's no pulled threads or no knots, and you just have to cut both sides, tie it, and then replace the thread. And sometimes you have to replace the beading on the front as well. But it's much better to do it now than, find it later, and it's just more complicated once the lining's in. Oh, and this is me, because it's daisies. My favourite thing about daisies is how beautiful bright green the stems and the leaves are. So, yeah, what I'm really missing in this jacket, like I love aqua and white together. They're adorable, but there's no green in it, and I just really miss the green. So I did think about putting some tiny little aqua and green sequins in there, but these ones here, but I've got a fluoro green Valentino handbag. I'll just carry that when I wear this jacket. And I've got a few of the daisy sequins left over, so I'll do one with green. Anyway, now I really, really, really have to finish this. So I will check the beading and sew the sides up, and then we'll be back. Ugh, it's such a tiny jacket, but there's so much work in it. Okay, I'll stop complaining and go do the last bit of work now. So yes, I did in fact finally take it off the mannequin, and I took the pins out, and then this is what the back looks like. It's like one of those word puzzles or something, and you basically just go along. First you do a visual check, which means you look at the outside and see if any of the daisies look wrong, and you sort of pull them to test them. Once you've done that, you have to turn it around to the back, because it's just much easier to see the knots on the back. So then you just look and just pull each thread, and it's pretty boring, but you have to do it. So then you just fix any ones that need to be fixing. There were about 3 that I found that needed to be fixed. And then once that's done, you just pin. I used the big silver safety pins to pin the 2 sides together, because this beading is so 3-dimensional. I just found it much easier to use the larger pins rather than those smaller brass ones. And then the pins sort of just held it in place while I did this stitching. Sewers tend to hate doing this type of stitching, but if you know someone who wants to be a med student or a doctor, they will love doing that stitching, because it's the kind of stitching that they do after surgery or to stitch up someone. So there you go, rope them into doing the stitching for you. And then once that was done, I had to pin the lining to the outer jacket and carefully hand stitch that as well. There you go. You can see that the lining has been stitched to the outer jacket. I guess I could have used a different colour, but I sort of like that it's a darker shade and it's not aqua. It sort of feels like it's in the shadow, and I think it's good. I just love this beading. It is one of the prettiest things. Like, normally I try to make things either beautiful or interesting, but this is straight up pretty. I think it's one of this and the pink jacket, the pink and white tweed that I did, the last jacket I did. These are 2 of the prettiest jackets that I've ever made. They are just adorable. And I know a lot of women prefer to have the back of their jacket lower to go over their butt, but you should definitely consider doing a higher back like this, because it shows off the small of your back. Especially when you have it curve up like this, it just makes the eye think curvy nice. So even if you're straight up and down, or you're a bit of a triangle, having that curved up back, I definitely recommend trying it for at least one jacket. I know everyone prefers what they prefer, but every now and again try a different style jacket and I think you might be pleasantly surprised. So yeah, this is me obsessed with these daisies, but now the one on the left is the previous version of this jacket and the daisy one is the latest version of it. So it's got shorter sleeves, the neckline is slightly different, and yeah, I like this crop length. I think the sleeves could have slightly less ease. So instead of being this full width, I'll cut them a little bit shorter, as well as the cuff could be up a little bit. I feel like there's too much material under the arm. So I want it the same length on the outside of the arm, but to go up a bit on the inside. And this is the old footage. See how the two sides can cross over quite a bit, like there's an inch crossover at the front. So what I think I'll do is, just redraft the pattern. And also there's a bit of ease on the back still. So I'll take that out as well. This looks so pretty from the side. Actually, I kind of like the length of the sleeves from the side. Oh, well, too bad. I've already redrafted the next one. So the next one is going to be the lobster one. And as I said, I've redrafted it. So this is the front, the back, and the sleeve. So I'll switch them around so you can see. So this is the front piece here. So see how the front and the back sort of, they're a bit awkward, the join. So I've changed it so that the back is all cropped and the front has a little dip. So it's essentially the same, but it's just going to be easier to sew together when you do the hand sewing bit. And the sleeves are slightly smaller, and as I said, they don't go down so much on the inside of the sleeve near the hip, but the outer bit will still be the same. So we'll see how this goes. I might revert back to the previous sleeve. So yeah, it does use a lot less fabric, which is good. I'm thinking of using medium to large size sequins, as well as some plastic beads for this one. So it'll be slightly heavier than the daisy one, but yeah, essentially the same weight. So I'll probably still only use one structural layer of the netting as the structural layer. But anyway, that's for next month. And seriously, I'm obsessed with this daisy jacket. I absolutely love the way that it turned out. And yes, there are going to be lots more cotton jackets in my future, because this one is just adorable. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've been inspired to make yourself some party attire, because the party season is coming up. And yeah, thanks again for watching, and happy sewing.